In this video, we'll talk about the main developmental landmarks of school children from age 6 to the onset of puberty. So let's start by reviewing the learning objectives. And again, we encourage you to take the self-assessment test using the link below. So the learning objectives are to become familiar with the major physical, cognitive, sexual, and social landmarks of school age development. We'll now talk about the development from the perspective of their bodies. During these ages, growth occurs at a slower rate than before. Gross motor skills like climbing, running, kicking are well developed and continue to improve. Now we'll watch a clip with an example of this.
Since I left the city.
Athletic ability becomes a measure of competence, and fine motor skills for writing and drawing also improve. Now let's talk about cognitive development. During these ages, children develop the capacity to maintain self-control, work, and learn skills through practice. Synaptic pruning and myelination occur at increased rates in the prefrontal cortex. And this correlates with the emergence of functions like improved working memory, selective attention, planning, and inhibitory control, which are all needed for school. Between 5 and 7, children become capable of reasoning, learning, and perceiving reality more accurately. They develop feelings of competence and self-esteem by acquiring skills and comparing themselves with their peers. Children learn to read and write and become proficient in organized games and sports. Now we'll watch a clip with an example of this. During these ages, they also become increasingly sophisticated in understanding the perspective of others. By ages 10 to 12, a child can hold opposing viewpoints and, at the same time, tolerate emotional ambivalence. Now we'll talk some more about language. By age 10, the average child has a receptive vocabulary of about 4,000 words. They also begin to appreciate metaphors, similes, and figures of speech. Children develop an appreciation for wordplay and jokes that depend on double meaning. Games change from imaginative play to games with structure and rules. Now we'll watch a clip with an example of this.
We're gonna play charades!
What's charades?
You pick up a card, if it says bouncing a ball, you just do this.
Are you allowed to talk?
No.
Fantasy frequently becomes interiorized rather than enacted. Between 7 and 12, children can manipulate the objects of his or her perception. This was described by Piaget as a shift to concrete operations. This represents a shift from action to thought. Now we'll watch a clip with an example of this.
So first we're going to look at these two cups right here. Do you think there's the same amount of juice in this glass as there is in that glass?
They're even.
They're even? Okay. So we're going to take the juice from this glass and pour it into this one right here.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to look at this glass and that one. So do you think that there's more juice in this glass, more juice in this glass, or do you think that they have the same amount?
Same amount.
Okay, why do you think that they have the same amount?
Just because this is skinny doesn't mean it's not the same amount.
It is distinct from formal operations developed in adolescence, as children this age can only use logic and reasoning processes like reversibility and perspective taking to think about objects that are visible rather than purely mental structures. Spatial and time organization progressively improve, allowing for planning and drawings with a linear perspective. Processing speed, the ability to focus, categorize, suppress impulses, and working memory all improve, leading to better problem-solving skills with flexible and adaptive thinking. Finally, let's talk about social development during these ages. In middle childhood, even though parents remain central figures, other adults and peers begin to take increasing importance. Same-sex friendships become the norm, and gender identification becomes more firmly established. Social status becomes a defining part of the sense of self during these years. Groups of friends are usually organized around gender, common interests, and social status. Bullying becomes more common. Male bullies usually use both physical and emotional strategies in attacking victims, whereas female bullies tend to rely on relational aggression. During this time, children begin to appreciate moral complexity and develop more nuanced views of moral dilemmas. Compared to adolescents, school children tend to be complacent and accept rules and authority. So this is the end of our video on school age development. Next, we'll look at development for pre-adolescence and adolescence.